Congratulations. You've reached the point in your life when your body will now change. Not just growing taller and stronger, but in other ways you may have just begun to guess at. My name is David, and I'm here to turn those guesses into irrefutable fact. This is what you'll experience as you become a teenager. We're all here for the same reason. Our parents. When they had you, a signal was sent to a large computer in the middle of the Nevada desert. Sometimes the computer gets so hot that it turns the sand surrounding it to glass. This is where many of your glasses come from. That large computer outputs your information onto a card that is then given to a government operative and driven at the maximum allowed speed to the newborn, you. Then a parent, nurse, priest, or orphanage lieutenant is given that card. How many of you have your cards with you? If you answered yes, you're in grave danger. Those cards must never fall into hostile hands. Keep them safe. The cards bear 5 symbols for the 5 types of teenager you may become. We'll take them in no particular order, though of course we all know which ones are superior. The sensible shirt. Our first symbol accounts for roughly 55% of the population. Those of you who have the sensible shirt may not feel so special, but you should, because you will develop the ability to summon lightning. You may have noticed your gadgets charging faster than they used to, or your pets may be avoiding you for fear of shock. You will probably grow to be taller than your friends, and may act as a lightning rod if standing in a big field. Everyone's going to want you to come camping. In peacetime, you can expect to work in weather stations or a chain like "You break, I fix." And in war, you will be sent behind enemy lines to destroy infrastructure. A common question: where did the symbols come from? There was a time when teenagers were divided by gender, but the Gap Corporation, in the course of some market research, began to notice curious powers in some of their young models and test subjects. For the safety of their employees, they developed the symbols used to this day. Their corporate leaders may have been executed for their controversial experiments, but those designations live on. The Shapely Khaki comes next for us, and it is a symbol that describes a little more than a quarter of you. And if you bear the Shapely Khaki, watch out, because you just might wake up in the air. The Shapely Khaki means the ability to levitate. For most of you at this age, just a few inches off the ground. But as you grow, you may rise as high as the tallest towers of Dubai. One Minnesotan man reportedly flew so high, he was hit by a low-flying plane, so do be careful. A fun fact, early on after the big change, Shapely Khaki holders were derogatively called Floaties, and were often tied to flagpoles or trapped in balloon nets at concerts. But the joke was on the bullies, as Gap scientists learned that the Floaties could make anything hover, just by touch. Now, of course, bearers of the Shapely Khaki form our engineer caste, responsible for all of our hovering transportation. Floaties, float on. Next we come to the baseball hat, a symbol shared by about 1 in 10 teens. If this is your symbol, you can touch any rock and tell what it's thinking. Interesting stuff. Then we come to the Laced Docksider, accounting for 4% of the population. Imagine the surprise of the Gap scientists, in between attempts to destroy incriminating evidence, when a fully cooked meal formed in front of them. That meal was the creation of the first Laced Docksiders, who had, as all of you Docksiders do, the ability to conjure food ready to eat. Where does this food come from? Why can some individuals conjure only one specific dish? Is it safe to eat? How is any of this possible when free energy undermines our fundamental understanding of physics? One thing is for sure, that food is delicious. Dig in, Docksider. Last, a group you've probably heard a lot about, holders of the Graphical Belt. They're a small group, only 1 in 1 million born, but they've certainly made a name for themselves. Holders of the Graphical Belt have a wide suite of abilities, only poorly understood by even the most advanced Gap scientists. We know they have abilities that relate to manipulation of the mind. And the early days, a small cadre of Graphical Belt holders wreaked havoc, as you all know, in a series of coordinated attacks, now known as the Gap Closing Sale, because, as the rebels proclaimed, everything must go. Our best estimate is that the uprising killed tens of thousands, and was led by a man known only as the Gap Kid, so called because he used his powers to lead many Gap scientists hurtling into a gap, in this case, a chasm, where they all died. The Graphical Belt rebels were, for need of security, exiled by khaki-powered vehicles to an Arctic wasteland colony, where they're walled in by constant lightning maintained by our comrades of the Sensible Shirt. They are well fed by the Docksiders, and the baseball hats talk to the rock they live on to make sure they're doing all right. But the danger is real, and when the big computer prints out that Graphical Belt, we race in our hover cars to exile that baby just as fast as we can. Sometimes, Gap Kid gets there first. We believe he's assembling an army, maybe on Earth, maybe in space. Maybe he's already conquered us, and we live on only in a mental prison of his creation. All we can hope for is to combine our powers and be careful. Very careful. So that's a brief summary of what you can expect in the next few years. It may be weird, awkward, and sometimes downright spooky. But don't be afraid. You have many resources at your disposal, and worst case, you're already dead. So keep calm and try to have a little fun. Thank you for your attention as you've learned the 5 symbols for the teenager.